Okay, so I invite Sāmaṇera Yasa to come take his place on the outside of the boundary. That outside the boundary, inside the boundary will make sense a little bit later, because it's in this ordination ceremony. One of the things that is required is for the chanting acharyas to question the candidate as to his suitability, and he will, and this whole ordination procedure is quite, dates back to the procedures and the chanting and the format goes back pretty much to the time of the Buddha, and is in our Vinaya text, the text on the books of the discipline, and at the way that all the various rules and protocols came about was that when there was an occasion or circumstance that the Buddha felt needed to be addressed, then he would formulate a rule or formulate a procedure, and then it was over, because the Buddha taught for 45 years, and so over a period of 45 years, and the whole structure of rules and protocols and procedures came about, and one of the circumstances was they would question candidate as to the appropriateness, and then a candidate, they would do it inside the midst of the community, in the midst of the Sangha, and the candidate got very flustered and couldn't think straight. So then the Buddha said, well, before bringing the candidate into the midst of the Sangha, do the questioning outside the boundary, sort of away from the community, so that get them familiar and get them comfortable, and then bring them in. Yasa is very comfortable, so and the way we do it, of course, there's a lot of prep and training, and people are very familiar. By the time it gets to the actual ordination, the candidates are very familiar with what's going to happen. Nothing will come out of left field and surprising. So that he is sort of seated away, and then what happens now is that the chanting acharyas, there are two chanting acharyas, and the chanting acharya who will, the next thing is to actually for the candidate to re-establish, retake the novice precepts, so that those are fresh and have been renewed prior to the actual procedure for the bhikkhu ordination, and so that this next part will be Sāmaṇera Yasa, requesting the refuges and precepts, and then Ajñāniko as the chanting acharya will go back and do the re-establishing of the Sāmaṇera precepts. So you can go ahead begin by.
Okasa vandami bante sabang aparadang kamatame bante maya katang punyang samina hanumoditabang samina katang punyang mayhang databang sadhu sadhu anumodami Okasa karunyam katawa tisaranena saha silani detame bante.
So that chant, that Sāmaṇera Yasa is chanted, it'll come up a few times through the ordination, and it is a formal offering of respects and asking forgiveness and asking to dedicate whatever goodness has been accumulated by me to share that and to partake in the goodness of the elder. The tray of candles, incense, flowers, these are the traditional offerings of respect.
Ahang bante sarana silang yachami dutiyang piya hang bante sarana silang yachami tatiyang piya hang bante sarana silang yachami. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 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 Yamahang vadami tang vadehi okasaham bante Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami Dhammaṃ saranang gacchami Dhammaṃ saranang gacchami Sanghaṃ saranang gacchami Sanghaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchami Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Ti sarana kamanang nititang.
Okasaham Bante.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Surameraya maccapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Vikalabhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikalabhojana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Nacha gita varita visukkadasana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha Gita Varita Visukkadasana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Mala gandha vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Mala Ganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Uccasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uccasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Jata rupa rajata patikahana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Jata Rupa Rajata Patikahana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Imani dasa sikkhapadani samadhiyami.
Okasaham Bante. Imani Dasa Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami. Imani Dasa Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami. Imani Dasa Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami.
Something wrong. Okay, could you grab that and make it disappear? There we go.
Leave that seat there. Did you get that?
Okay. There we go. Thank you. Okay. So, having completed the precepts, we could invite family members to come forward and offer the requisite family supporters and offer the alms bowl. And this is the basically, along with our robe, this is one of the main symbols of our living the holy life. So father and stepfather have made the effort to come up, and then Yasa's father will offer the robes, Kati, all of these, and then Debbie will make an offering of the candles, incense, flowers, which are the offering which he will make to the preceptor. And so that these are the basics, or the bottom line of our needs for living our life within within Buddhist practice, Buddhist monastic form. And so having our alms bowl, and that's it is of course it's both a symbol, but it's also, it really is, that's how we receive our food, it's what we eat in. When we travel, we can use it as a little suitcase and put our robes in, keep them dry. And I've done that before, like living out in the forest and getting caught in the rain or under an umbrella and mosquito net, but it's wind's ripping around. But these, and most things got soaked, but everything that was in the bowl was dry, so it's something dry in the morning to wear. That's our part of our requisites, and is also a symbol of how we live. Ajahn Chah once said that in Thailand the bowl is called a baht, and in Pali it's patta, but in Thai it's a baht. So that, but then also the currency that's used in Thailand is also a baht. And so he said, the Buddha provided for us all of our needs, all of our nutritional needs, material needs, by just giving us 1 baht. So just as if it was just by getting $1 you're able to live for forever. But it's been this alms bowl is it's a symbol of how we live, and it's that recognition of also that we rely on the offerings and the goodwill of others, and so these robes and bowl are a symbol of our living of the monastic life, the holy life, and it is it both by giving oneself to that form, one is able to live a skillful life, but also in order for that life to bear fruit, then one has to pick up those symbols and learn how to skillfully live within that form. You go anywhere in, say, out of the monastery, everybody, especially if you go into Ukiah, they know you come from Abhayagiri. There's not many of us around, so so there's a certain responsibility as well of keeping the form and using the form as the Buddha laid down. So and that's certainly part of the training before one even takes the takes the robes. There's a couple years of training, at least a couple of years before one does fully take on the training, and it gives an opportunity to learn what are the rules of the monastic form, what are the duties, what are the responsibilities, how do I use this skillfully, do I actually want to do it, and do the people I'm living with actually, do they support it? So then that's over time, and it's this kind of trust or confidence has been. So Yasa has gained a kind of confidence to take on the training and to commit to this form, so that we will continue with the procedure. If somebody could put his Sangati on, and that will get ready. These, of course, the robes have been sewed by Yasa in preparation for today. And did the we're only going to tie his robes on for him just this one day. He's on his own after this. There's enough happening already, so they keep the robes from falling off during the ceremony is a good thing. Very nice. Over the years of Abhayagiri, we've had some strange knots tied in. Okay, Sāmaṇera Yasa, you can come forward.
Okasa vandami bante sabang aparadam kamatame bante Maya katang punyang samina anumoditabang samina katang punyang mayang databang sadhu sadhu anumodami oka sakarunyang katawa nisayang dekame bante.
Okay, so you can come forward into the midst of the Sangha with your tray of offerings, your bowl. Sit down. Offer the tray of offerings first. Offer the bowl. Then you can request the Nisayan, requesting dependence.
Aham bante nisayanya chami dutiyam piyaham bante nisayanya chami tatiyam piyaham bante nisayanya chami upajayo me bante hohi upajayo me bante hohi upajayo me bante hohi.
Opayikam
Okasa sampatichami,
patik-rupang
okasa sampatichami,
pasadikena sambhadehi
okasa sampatichami. Ajatege dani tero, my hambaro, aham pitera sabaro. Ajatege dani tero, my hambaro, aham pitera sabaro. Ajatege dani tero, my hambaro, aham pitera sabaro.
You can sit comfortably. Okay, so you are requesting, of course, one of the first things to do in this process of the ordination procedure is to ask for nisaya, asking for dependence, and that asking for dependence is an important aspect of training, because it's in order to train we actually have to live in dependence on others, teachers, mentors, those who we share the holy life with, share our monastic life with. And the ceremony is asking for dependence from me, which is formal, but the reality is that in requesting dependence, one is taking dependence on me, but then taking dependence on the teachers, your chanting acharyas, Ajahn Kurunamo, Ajahn Yaniko, the abbot, Ajahn Yaniko, the senior elders that are here, and your fellow monastics who live together, because it's actually why there is a or how this whole ceremony is structured is it's not, say, like me giving ordination. It is the Sangha giving ordination. So it is a community taking on the responsibility and duty of introducing and training a person on how to live this monastic form. And so that throughout this ceremony, it is like these various announcements and that's all to say the reality is it's the Sangha is the community is your who you're really taking dependence on, and also just the actual the Pali word for the ordination it's called upasampada, and what that means is, say, acceptance, full acceptance into the community. So it's so that being accepted, taken on as a person who is training and living this way of life. So, but the taking of dependence is important principle, because it's we don't say none of this is ordinary. It's not how people ordinarily live, and the way that the Buddha structured this lifestyle, structured the training, structured the teaching. One needs to be, say, introduced to it, encouraged, admonished, given kind of feedback and support in different ways. Because it's not, it's certainly not how people ordinarily live in the world. And when one does sort of take dependence and live within a community, then we get to learn from each other, and that's it was a few days ago. I was recounting my own experience. One of the days of teaching, I was recounting my own experience that when I ordained as a monk, I had no idea what I was doing. I was given ordination very quickly, and then even after I ordained, I still didn't know what the heck I was doing, and that it's problematic. So that because this it really does take time to, not just on a say on a rational or intellectual level of knowing this rule or that rule, but it's how do you live it? How do you incorporate it into your being? What are the implications of it? How to work with it skillfully? So that takes time, and that's why Ajahn Chah was very. He would use the period of the Anagarika training in white for a period of time, about a year, and then and it wasn't fixed. Same with say the novice ordinations were about a year, but wasn't fixed. It was It's hard to pin Ajahn Chah down sometimes, and I remember there was a group of novices that, gosh, they waited for a long time before they were given their bhikkhu ordination. And then even when they were a group of Westerners, and then even when they did the ordination, and they'd been there the longest, and then Ajahn Chah ordained the last, so that they were the last ones who ordained, so they were the most junior monks, even when they finally ordained, and they're mostly older than the rest, and had been around longer. Ajahn Chah he could be pretty ferocious sometimes in his willingness to train us, and even if we didn't want to be trained. So it was. But this, and I remember one time talking with a very senior monk, disciple of Ajahn Mun, Ajahn Sao in particular, Lumpur Phut. And Lumpur Phut saying that this is the way that the Buddha himself trained his students, disciples, and this taking of dependence and living in dependence for extensive period of time. Say by Vinaya, it's say 5 years. He said that that's something that is being lost. He was speaking in the past. It is being lost, and Ajahn Chah is one of the few monks who's willing to do that, because he said he had tremendous respect for Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Chah's commitment to training, and that's because that's how when we think of how we learn, we learn through our actions, by the things that we do, and oftentimes for just because we read something or even know some of the details of the facts, it doesn't mean we've actually learned it. It has to be internalized. And so certainly the teachings of the Buddha, the training of the Buddha, it takes time to fully internalize it. And this is one of the qualities that the Buddha speaks about in terms of the nature of Dhamma, is opanayiko. It's leading inwards. It has to be drawn inwards. So it has to be brought into the heart. Can't be left as either a vague or even an clear, intelligent concept. If it's just on a conceptual level, it's not going to transform us. It has to be brought into the heart and deeply realized, so that this, giving oneself to the training, giving oneself to dependence, and then certainly as having taken dependence, and also to this is, it is also your, how do you say, it's like a duty to be in dependence, but it's also a part of the dependence is also the opportunity, availability of the, say, preceptor and teacher and Sangha to be there for you and to be available to guide or to give encouragement or to clear up doubts, clear up difficulties that you have, so that not to don't hold back in training yourself, and don't hold back in seeking guidance and seeking support. This is, as you well know, this is a long-term project, and it's something to keep refining and keep internalizing. So the actual ceremony today, of course, we're follow the format and procedures as they're laid out in the books of discipline, and it's done in the Pali language, and I will you'll be questioned by the chanting acharyas as to the various aspects of your say obstacles that you have, whether you have them, and then to properly say that, no, I don't have those, or the things which are required of you, and to formally say, that's I'm fine with those. And you'll also be asked what your name is in the ceremony, and they'll ask you ki na mosi. Of course, your name is Yasa, but in the Pali declension, in the questioning, you will answer ahang bante yaso nama. They'll also ask you what the name of the upajjhaya is, and of course that is me, Pasanno. They'll ask ho namate upajjhayo, and you should answer upajjhayo me bante vayasama pasanno nama. And the next thing that is the part of the ceremony is the formal designating of your or giving you your bowl and robes, pointing them out to you, so you could come forward and receive your bowl. And then I will point them out to you. Hatamang upajjangaha petambo upajjangaha petva pattajivarang achikitabang ayante patho ayang sanghate ayang uttara sangho ayang antara vasako gachamum hiyokase titahi. Okay, so that means go back and stand over there, behind that mat. So that those are the main robes are what he's got over his shoulder is it's called a Sangati. It's a double thickness robe, and then the outer robe is called the Uttara Sangha, and then the lower robe is the Antravasaka, and his bowl is the patta, and so that these are the main requisites. And next thing is the chanting acharyas will go out to. Go ahead. Yep.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
And now the chanting acharyas will make an announcement to the Sangha saying that they will go out to question the candidate.
Sunatu me bande sangho yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampara peko yari sangha sa patakalam aham yasang anusaseyam. Sunasi yasa ayante sachakalo buddhakalo yam jatam tang sankamate pujante santang atite vatapam asantang atite vatapam mako itasi mako manku ahosi evam tang puji santi santi te eva rupa Abhada Kutam
Nati Bante
Kando
Nati Bante
Kilaso
Nati Bante
So
Nati Bante
Papamaro
Nati Bante
Manusosi
Ama Bante
Purisosi
Ama Bante
Pujisosi
Ama Bante
Ananosi
Ama Bante
Nasirajapato
Ama Bante
Anunyatosi Mata Pituhi
Ama Bante
Paripurna Visati Vasosi
Ama Bante
Paripurnam Te Patajivaram
Ama Bante
Kinamosi
Aham Bante Yaso Nama
Ko Namate Upachayo
Upajayo Me Bante Ayasama Pasanno Nama.
Okay, so now the chanting acharyas will make a formal announcement that their questioning outside the boundary has been completed.
Sunatu me bante sangho yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampara peko anusito somaya yari sangha sa patakalam yaso agacheya agachahi.
Okay, which means come in or come here. That's perfect. Okay, now the Sāmaṇera Yasa will make a formal request to the Sangha for his upasampada, his acceptance, and it says, may the Sangha out of sympathy lift me up, which is another way that upasampada is sort of lifting up or raising up into the Sangha. Go ahead.
Sangham bante upasampadang yachami ulum patumam bante sangho anukampam upadaya tutiyampi bante sangham upasampadang yachami ulum patumam bante sangho anukampam upadaya tutiyampi bante Sangha upasampadang yachami ulum patumam bante sangho anukampam upadaya.
So you remain kneeling there, and then I will inform the Sangha of your sort of request and sort of advocate for you to for the Sangha to accept you as a candidate. Yedaniko avaso yaso nama Yedaniko avaso ayang yaso nama Sāmaṇero mama upasambara peko upasambadang akaṅkamano saṅghang yajati ahang sambabimang sanghang ajesami sadvavaso saboyang sanghoimang yasang nama samanerang antaraya ke dhamme pujitva tatapata kalatan yatawa nyati chatutena kamena akupena thana rahena upasambhade mate kama sanithanang kaloto. Okay, so then you can come up into the midst of the Sangha, up onto the cushion there. There we go. And then you can, the chanting acharyas will make an announcement that they will question the candidate in the midst of the Sangha.
Sunatu me bande sangho ayam yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampara peko yari sangha sapatakalam aham yasang antarai kedame pucheyam. Sunasi yasa ayante sajakalo bhutakalo yang jatang tang puchami santang atiti vatabang asantang atiti vatabang santi te deva rupa abada kutam
Nati bante
gando
Nati bante
kilaso
Nati bante
soso
Nati bante
apamaro
Nati bante
manusosi
Amabante
purisosi
Amabante
pujisosi
Amabante
ananosi
Amabante
nasi rajabato
Amabante
anunyatosi mata pituhi
Amabante
paripurna visati vasosi
Amabante
paripunante patachivara
Ama Bante.
Kinamosi.
Ahang Bante. Yaso Nama.
Ko namate upachayo.
Upajayo me Bante. Ayasama Pasano Nama.
Okay, so you could sit comfortably. And the next thing that will happen is the chanting acharyas will make the formal motion and 3 announcements to the Sangha. And this is a good example of how the governance of the Sangha is, and as of course it's been sort of illustrated all the way along, but it's more like, okay, this is what's happening. There's this candidate, and there's a preceptor, and he is free of obstacles. He's got his robes and his bowl complete, and he's asking for the ordination. And if the community is ready and willing, may the Sangha give the acceptance to this candidate with this preceptor. This is a motion, and then it's sort of like it's repeated as announcements, and it's at the end of those. Okay, this is a motion, 3 announcements. Is everybody in agreement? It seems to be in agreement. If it really is, then may the Sangha remain silent, and this is it. This is so. So it's like there is a consensus process that the Buddha laid down as an act of how to govern the community, govern the Sangha. And it wasn't, say, investing one person with absolute authority, and there they they are the grand king and ruler, and everybody has to follow them. It doesn't work like that. It is the whole ethos of how the Buddha laid out the governance of the Sangha was through that sense of communication, consensus, communal agreement, and then people taking responsibility for that, and so that is a great illustration of how that principle plays itself out and is exemplified, so that in the time of the Buddha, there were different models of governance, and both from, say, like in terms of the country, and it's like having kings and say authority figures who ruled on their own, and then there were others that ruled. There were that ruled by consensus, by agreement, and so the Buddha, I think, obviously preferred this model as a governance for the Sangha, and that say even but within the say within the society, the Buddha was sometimes asked for advice as to for kings, and the Buddha sort of gave advice. Okay, what is a good king? What does a good absolute ruler do? What's their responsibility? And it was never because there's always the way that the Buddha taught it. There's always mutual duties and responsibilities and that is a reality of human relationships. And so the same with in terms of having a governance by consensus, and so that these are there is a time of dependence. There's people who take responsibility. Everybody is involved in the process. Say, like in a community, if you have an ordination and you have a group of people living in a monastery, then it requires everybody to be there in order for a valid act of the Sangha to be passed. If everybody's not there, then it's not a valid act of the Sangha. So that it's the Buddha, again, the sense of the Buddha said, this communal responsibility and a communal agreement has to be worked out to when there are things that affect the whole community. So it's a really important principle. And this sense of the kind of mutual duties, mutual responsibilities. What comes to mind is like yesterday when when Lompa Mahaprasad came to visit us, and it is one of the formal ways of paying respects to a senior monk is using a formula that we recite, which is an asking of forgiveness, and we use it as a formal way of paying respects. We use it when we take leave after having been in a monastery for a while, or something actually comes up, and we use that formula for asking for forgiveness, But it's interesting that the act of asking for forgiveness is one by say like yesterday by us, but then, or if it were, say, individuals, to be somebody asking forgiveness of teacher or somebody else. But the way, the procedure is also, say, like we asked forgiveness from Ajahn Mahaprasad. Ajahn Mahaprasad then responds by, yes, I give my forgiveness, may you also forgive me. And so the sense of mutual kind of acknowledgement, mutual forgiveness, because living together as human beings is tough. And knowing how to both encourage, support, but also to forgive, and to be able to mutually give that as a sharing. So it's similarly just say like the asking of dependence is similarly there's the sense of mutual duties, mutual responsibilities, mutual kind of ways that we both encourage and support and acknowledge, admonish and correct each other. And if it's used skillfully, it's a really balanced system. Because it's how do you say? It doesn't. say power doesn't flow one way. It has to go both ways. And in the same way, it's like in our Vinaya, there are say protocols for looking after the preceptor, looking after the teacher, and then there's protocols for how the teacher looks after the student, how the teacher looks after the disciple. And part of those duties and responsibilities, say, of the student to the teacher, is that if the teacher's misbehaving, the student has a responsibility of bringing it to the knowledge of the teacher. And then also, and again, the Buddha is very practical. If it feels awkward or difficult, then you ask for somebody to mediate. And so it's the Buddha, he understood human nature so well, and gave us these tools, not just for how to meditate and realize Nibbana, which is a good thing, but how to live together, and how to keep a life of kind of beauty and skillfulness front and center. As I say, this is a taking on monastic form, taking on monastic training. It's a long-term project, and it takes time to gain the skill and the confidence, and to reap the fruits. We reap the fruits of it. Some things it becomes immediately apparent, and it's absolute delight, and some things take a while to sort of get a sense, okay, that's how that works. So anyway, the next thing is the motion and the 3 announcements, which actually is the formal ordination.
Sunatu me bande sangho ayang yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampara peko parisuddho antaraike idamehi paripurnasa patachivaram yaso sangham upasampadam yachati ayasamata pasanena upajayena Yadi Sangha Sapatakalam Sangho Yasang Upasampadeya Ayasamata Pasanena Upachayena Esanyati Sunatu Mevante Sangho Ayang yaso ayasamato pasanasa upasampara peko parisuddho antaraike idamehi paripurnasa patachivaram yaso sangham upasampadam yachati ayasamata pasanena upachayena sangho yasang upasampadeti ayasamata pasanena upachayena yasa yasamato kamati yasa sa upasampada ayasamata pasanena upachayena sotunhasa yasana kamati sobhaseya dutiyampi etamatang vadami sunatu me bante sangho ayang yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampada peko Parisuddho antarayike idamehi Paripurnasa patachivaram Yaso Sangha upasampadam yachati Ayasamata pasanena upachayena Sangho yasang upasampadeti Ayasamata pasanena upachayena Yasa yasamato kamati Yasa sa upasampada Ayasamata pasanena upachayena So tunhasa yasana kamati So baseya tatiyampi etamatan vadami Sunatu me bante sango ayam yaso ayasamato pasana sa upasampada peko Parisuddho antarayike idamehi Paripurnasa patachivaram Yaso Sangha upasampadam yachati Ayasamata pasanena upachayena Sangho yasang upasampadeti Ayasamata pasanena upachayena Yasa yasamato kamati Yasa sa upasampada Ayasamata pasanena upachayena So tunhasa yasana kamati So baseya Upasampano samhena Yaso ayasamata pasanena upachayena Kamati sangasa tasamatunhi evametam dharayami
Sadhu. Okay, Bhikkhu Yasa. Okay, you can take your bowl off and then sit comfortably. The next part of the procedure is the newly ordained bhikkhu being or receiving their instruction from the preceptor. Preceptor is required. Again, sort of the Buddha made it a part of the rules of discipline that the preceptor has to give the new bhikkhu instruction on the 4 requisites, the alms food, robes, the shelter, dwelling place, and then medicines for when one is sick. Those are the 4 fundamental requisites for the life, and then there's 4 rules in the discipline that are kind of non-negotiable. If one transgresses them, then one is immediately not a bhikkhu. So that it's important to clarify these. One is sexual intercourse, stealing, taking the life of a human being, and kind of lying, a special form of lying about spiritual attainments. And so that these are if I as the preceptor neglect to do that, if it doesn't happen before the next dawn, then I incur as a monastic offense. And so it's a duty that I need to perform, and because it's a part of the say training and beginning this venture of living the life of a bhikkhu, then it's usually done sort of immediately after the motion and 3 announcements have done. It'll be done in Pali, and in actual fact, Ajahn Yaniko has already sat down and clarified these things, and over the past years, Yasa has been in on all of the instructions for the discipline and the training and the protocols and the lifestyle, so that he's well informed. But it's important to not make not cut corners, and we will do the instruction. It'll be done in Pali, it's just is again this pointing out of the fundamental requisites of life. We rely on what is offered, and when we rely on what is offered, then there's a certain contentment that is engendered or is helpful to pay attention to. The simplicity of our lifestyle is such that we really can live our life dependent on what is offered to us. There's many of the monks here have gone kind of wandering and with their alms bowls and their robes, and both in say here in America, in Thailand, in India, and there's something about this form that is just certain. It's like an archetype where the religious seeker is an archetype that resonates with many human beings, and having that form where we live simply on what is offered in terms of food. We live simply on the robe material that we say we know how to make, we know how to look after, and we know how to patch it to keep it going. Today these are brand new spiffy robes, but they'll start to get holes in them after a while. And tear them. I remember I had to. It was when I went on. I did a period of kind of sabbatical when I stepped down from being the abbot, and I was offered this very nice set of robes, and had the underrobe was when I was in Thailand, and shortly after being in Thailand, that I went to Birken Forest Monastery in British Columbia to stay, and was in retreat there for 6 months, and it took me almost no time whatsoever to crawl over a barbed wire fence and put a hole in my robes. But then you know, okay, it's a hole in your robes, and you know how to patch it, you know, look after it, and it's no big deal. And that's what one does. One looks after the cloth that one's been given as robes, and our a dwelling place that we have. We're able to live here in the forest with actually very comfortable dwelling places, but also some of the monks are living outside under the trees in the forest. In the monastic discipline, we can just stay out under the root of a tree and until, except during the rainy season, when the weather is really not very supportive of that. But even still, it's just having simple dwelling places. Of course, simple dwelling places in California are not so easy. Not so easy, it's kind of illegal. They require us to be in buildings that we get building permits for, and pass the building inspectors come out and inspect them, so that it's one of the weirdnesses of building a monastery in the West. But it's actually, one of the things that it does do is require us to build structures that really last, which is good. And it's of benefit for a long period of time. But being able to I remember, was it one of the dwelling places I lived in, I think it was my second year at Wat Nanachat, was just a grass roof. It's got a grass roof, kind of thatch on top, very, very basic, very simple. And then kind of grass roof on the sides. Door was just another grass roof thing. Oh, it was bamboo that was plated, and it was tied so you could kind of lift it open and lift it shut. But it was a door. And then there was no actual floor. It was an earthen floor, and it was just like a wooden platform to sleep on. And hang up the mosquito net and be able to protect from the bugs. And that was plenty. It was fine. When you're living in a tropical climate, you don't have to protect yourself from the elements so much. Keep the rain off is certainly a thing. And if you know how to use those mosquito nets, and you can keep the various creepy crawlies from coming in as well. You have to learn that, or you learn that pretty quick, because it's. Remember one of the earliest days of being at Wat Pah Pong, I'd only just recently got there, and I was having a bit of a midday nap. It's on my porch, and I was just kind of laying down and not under anything or with anything around me, and And because I just wanted to have a quick rest and just have a bit of a, I didn't want to really fall into too deep a sleep. So I was just on the porch, kind of laid down on the side. And then I hadn't laid down very long, and then bang, it was something really painful. And I just was falling asleep. And then bang, it was really painful. I got up and looked around, and what the heck is that? I had no idea what it was. And so I laid back down again, and bang, it was coming further up my leg, and I started, anyway, it was a scorpion, right? It was just and it was crawling up my leg and stinging me as it was going up. So it's just having something simple like a mosquito net. You tuck it in, and you can protect yourself from the bugs. You've got a mat. You tuck it in, and then they can't get in. I hadn't learned that yet. You learn these things pretty quick when you. So but that simplicity and that commitment to a clarity of integrity of how we live this life. It's such an important aspect. So I will formally point these things out to you, and then you can acknowledge each one by one as I go through them. Anunyasiko bhagava upasampadetava jataro nisaye jatare cha akarniyani achikitung Pindiyalo pabojanang nisaya papacha tatate yavajivang usaho karatniyo adi rekalambo sangapatang udesapatang nimandanang salakapatang pakikang uposatikang patipatikang pangsakula jivarang nisaya papacha tatate yavajivang usaho karatniyo Adi rekalambo komang kapasikang kosayang kambalang sanang bhangang Rukamula senasanang nisaya papacha tatateya vajivang usaho karatniyo Adi rekalabo viharo adiyogo pasado hammiyang guha Puti muta besa jangne saya papacha tatateya vajivang usaho karatniyo Adi rekalabo sapi nawani tang telang madhupanitang Upasambhanena bhikkhuna metuno dhammo na patisevitabo annamaso tiracha nagatayapi Yo bhikkhu metunang dhammang patisevati asamano hoti asakriya puttiyo Sayatapi nama purisosi sachino abambo tena sarira bandhanena jivitung Eva meva bhikkhu metunang dhammang pati sevitva asamano hoti asakriya puttiyo tante avajivang akaraniyang Opat sambhanena bhikkhuna dinang thaya sankadang na adatabang annamaso tina salakang upadaya Yo bhikkhu padang va padarahang va hadireka padang va adinang thaya sankadang adiyate asamano hoti asakriya puttiyo sayatapi nama Pandu palaso bandana pamuto ababbo haritataya Eva meva bhikkhu padang va padarahang va adireka patang va dinang thaya sankatang adiyata va asamano hoti asakaya puttiyo tante avajivang kalaniyang.
Namabante.
Opa sambanena bhikkhuna sanchicha pano jivitana vorapetabo annamaso kuntaki pilikang upadaya yo bhikkhu sanchicha manusa vigahang jivita vorapeti annamaso gabhapatanang upadaya asamanohote asakaya puttiyo Sayatapi nama puttu sila dvinda binna pati sandika hote eva meva bhikkhu sanchicha manusa vigahang jivita vorapetva asamano hote asakya puttiyo tandhe avajivang karaniyang.
Namabante.
Opa sambanena bhikkhuna uttari manusa dhammo na ullapitabo Annamaso sunyakare habiramami eti yo bhikkhu papi choe cha pakato sandhang aputang uttari manusa dhammang ulapati khanang va vimokang va samadhing va samapating va magang va phalang va asamano hoti asakaya puttiyo sayatapi nama Talo mata kachino bambo punavilulhiya eva meva bhikkhu papi cho echa pakato asandang aputang uttari manusa dhammang ulapitava asamano hoti asakaya puttiyo tante avajivang karaniyang.
Namabante.
Aneka paryayena kopanatena bhagavata Chanata pasata arahata samma sambuddhena silang samadakatang samadhi samadakato panya samadakata yavadeva dhasa nimandanasa pipasa vanayasa alayasa mukathasa vatu panchedhasa tanhakayasa Viragasa nirodasa nibbhanasa sachikiriyaya tata sila paribhavito samadhi mahapalo mahani sangso samadhi paribhavita panya mahapala mahani sangsa panya paribhavitang chitang samadeva asavehi vimujjate sayadidang Gama sava bhava sava havijha sava tasmatiyate masaming tathagata pavedite dhammavanaye sakachang nadi sila sikha sikitaba nadi chitta sikha sikitaba nadi panya sikha sikitaba tata apamadena sampadetabhang. Okay, so the next thing is you could bow to the preceptor and then do the final recitation of the respectful gestures.
Okasa vandami bante sabang aparadang kamata me bante maya katang punyan samina anumoditabang samina katang punyan mai hang databang sadhu sadhu anumodami.
Okay, sadhu. Please. Okay, so that completes the ceremony, and say as the instruction at the end sort of wraps up what I chanted, say. So now when moral conduct, sila, or virtue, integrity, now when moral conduct is thoroughly developed, concentration is of great fruit, of great advantage. So the samadhi, that settling of the mind, is of great fruit and great advantage. When concentration, samadhi, is thoroughly developed, discernment, wisdom, is of great fruit, of great advantage. When discernment is thoroughly developed, the heart is freed completely from the asava, the outflow of sensuality, the outflow of becoming, the outflow of unknowing, avijja. So having prepared yourself in this doctrine and discipline made known by the Tathagata, you are to train yourself with the training in heightened virtue, with the training in heightened consciousness, with the training in heightened discernment. Thus, with diligence, you should strive. So it's a beautiful kind of admonition or wrapping up of the whole point of what we're doing, and to just picking up this training and all of its elements of the aspects of say virtue, integrity, cultivation of mindfulness, and settling the heart, stilling the heart, allowing it to become clear, and reflecting, investigating what are the ways to see with wisdom, see with discernment, understand with discernment, and that very last line, thus with diligence you should strive, is actually that's where I was actually at your Mahaprasad said that yesterday, and it's the last words of the Buddha. I would say apamadena sampadetam. So that sense of apamada, heedfulness, being very heedful, diligent, clear, circumspect is a good way. So and cultivating this life in a circumspect way. So just express my delight that you are here and now fully ordained as a bhikkhu, and that your family made the effort to come. It's great that you're here to witness it and to see it, and all the rest of the lay community who have joined together to witness this, and to it's like an offering of I think the word anumotana is a word. It's like a Buddhist jargon word. That is, but what it means is to delight in the goodness that's been done, and so this is worthy of anumotana, and the goodness that is being done. So we could wrap this up by the Sangha chanting a blessing, sort of our blessings to Yasa Bhikkhu, and then to also chant the sharing of blessings. Sammaroga vinimoto sambasanda bhavajindo sambhave Nirmudo jatava bhava sapiteyo viva Jandu samaro go vinna sandumate Lavadwandalayo sukhidhika Yuko mavahambivadanasili Sane chango eta pachayino cha Dalo dhammavada Jayayavano sukhang Mahalang soatalando sukito Vilulho bhunda sasane aroko Sukito ho hisahasambe Hinyati piso atalando sukito Vilulho bhunda sasane aroko Go sukito ho hisahasambe Hinyati piso atalando sukito Haloko sukito ho hisahasambe Hinyati pimina punyakame Nahupanjaya gunutala Achaleyo pakara Tapita janyataka suryo sandi maharaja gunavanta narapicha brahma maharaja Jayenda jalokapala Vatayamo meta manusa chamajata Verika picha sabe sata Sukhi hondu punya Nipakata nime sukanja devedande Dukhe pang bhapetam wo mata Himina punya kame Na himina hundise na chake paha Sulabe che vatan ho pada Na chetanang ye sandhane hina dhamma Yavanimbana to mama Nasandu sambanda ye vaya Tajato bhave bhave Uchuchitang satipanya saleko Viliyamina malala banduno ka sanghatu Javiliye sume bundadi Pavalo nato dhammo nato Valutamo nato pace Kambuto ca sango nato Taro mamang te so dhamma Nubhave namaro kasa Lubhantuma. Okay, we could pay respects to the shrine. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavanha Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho Sanghang Namami. Okay, thank you all.